Have you ever watched something objectively unfair happen and your whole body reacts like you're the one under attack,
You're annoyed, irritated. It is this ain't right mode.
right? Your chest tightens and your jaw locks and your brain goes, oh, hell no.
You see someone cut in line, someone gets talked over, somebody gets blamed for something that they is clearly not their fault.
Your superhero song might be playing in the back of your head,
Everything else just fades away. And it's not like it's chaotic, it's just precision. It's your hyperfocus. You can't let go of it.
which is why you're probably thinking about it 20 minutes later.
And that's the minimum because this isn't about being dramatic and it's not about being righteous.
If your brain processes unfairness deeply, persistently, and without an off switch, this episode's for you. This is Angry on the Inside. I'm Jess.
And I'm Jeannine. We're both certified ADHD life coaches, but this isn't coaching.
It's not therapy or medical advice.
It's just real, honest conversations about being women with late diagnosed ADHD and everything that goes along with it.
Take what resonates and leave the rest.
Before we keep going, I want to pause here because this is something that I've been feeling really deeply myself. And we're not going to be talking about politics, but we are going to acknowledge that we're living in a moment. I'm going to cry. we're We are going to acknowledge that we're living in a moment where a lot of people are feeling more on edge, more aware of injustice, and more emotionally saturated than usual.
And if you have an ADHD brain, that saturation doesn't stay abstract. It shows up in your body, your thoughts, and your tolerance levels, especially around fairness.
So if it feels like things are louder lately, you're not imagining it. And you're definitely not alone.
A lot of ADHD women don't just notice unfairness. We absorb it. It sticks, it loops, it lingers in our brains long after the moment itself has passed.
And the confusing part for me is watching other people just like move on, like nothing's happening, nothing's going on. They clock it or they don't, and they just keep moving on.
That really is the strangest thing. I think that's those moments where we look around and we're like, didn't you see that? You're like floored that no one else is stopping
Like, what does that have to do with us?
while we're still carrying it, playing it, trying to make sense of why it bothered us so much. Everyone else is just passing it by.
The self-doubt does start to kick in because you start wondering, why can't I let this go? Why am I still thinking about this? It doesn't impact me. Why do I care? And why does it feel bigger to me than it seems to for everybody else?
It's definitely a am I crazy moment. Oversensitivity, intensity, personal flaws. These are words we didn't have when we were younger, and we were still seeing these things. We were still witnessing these injustices, and we were still recognizing these problems in the world. But we started being told that we were too sensitive, overly sensitive, those types of things. And then it turns into a self-blame cycle once we're older. But there's actually a name for this pattern.
It's called justice sensitivity.
Justice sensitivity describes how strongly and how personally someone experiences unfairness. Not just when it happens to them, but when they witness it happening to anyone.
I just want to pause here for a second because if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, but is this actually an ADHD thing or am I just like this? We're not saying this shows up the same way for everyone, and we're not saying it explains everything. This tends to be turned way up because we don't just register what happened, we register the context, the imbalance, the power dynamic, and the emotional impact all at once.
The unfairness doesn't feel like an observation. It feels unresolved. It's like it's falling into our laps.
Unsolved things, they don't fade quietly. They resurface and they start to demand our attention.
I also wanted to bring up, because we talk about vocabulary being important, many people may have heard of injustice sensitivity and wonder the difference. Many people use justice sensitivity and injustice sensitivity, if I can get those words right. Many people use them interchangeably. Technically, there is a difference. So for justice sensitivity, it's supposed to be the actual heightened emotional reaction that you have. Whereas injustice sensitivity, it refers to the intense emotional or cognitive reaction. So justice sensitivity tends to be more externally viewed by us. Injustice sensitivity tends to be our more internal reaction. But overall, people kind of use them interchangeably, and that's probably how we'll end up using it today as well. We want to make sure to be considerate, especially if people start to talk about these things with us, that we aren't a little vocabulary Nazi and jump all over them because they can be interchangeable. And to be quite honest, until we started researching for this, I thought it was injustice sensitivity. I did not realize there was justice sensitivity. I don't know about you, Janine.
I used to think it was sensitivity and justice, but I interchange the words. So, but I think we all know what we're talking about. But I have a confession because I don't think I told you about this. I'm at the grocery store, self checkout, and there's two lines, and there was like an older woman who kind of had left a space, you know what I mean? And this guy just like walks in front of her and starts standing in the line. And she kind of looks up and doesn't say anything. And meanwhile, I'm like, dude, really? The lady's behind you, get behind her. And I know the guy in front of me saw the same thing happen. And he was just like, yeah, whatever. I was like, excuse me, the line's behind you. And then everybody looked at me like I was weird. He looked at me like I was weird because he's like, he was thinking, you're not even in my line. Why do you care? And the lady I cut off doesn't seem to care. So yeah, chick, what's your problem? But, and then of course, then the woman says, oh no, it's okay. You can go ahead of me. And I'm like, that is just reinforcing poor behavior, is it not?
Ugh, right? Isn't that when you want to be like, no, ma'am, no,
Yeah,
let me step in front of you so that I may defend you.
exactly.
I will not allow this to happen to you.
Yes, we are trying to live in a civil society here and there are rules and we need to watch out for people.
The line thing's a biggie for me. That does piss me off.
Well, especially when it's long and, it's like everyone's trying to get out.
I've had people do that, but with those things, I'm more likely to let it lax. Whereas in your situation with another person and that person receiving some type of injustice, I am far
Yeah.
more likely to be like, hold up.
Yeah. And yeah, she was an older woman. He was a younger guy. He doesn't have to treat her that way. It's just not fair.
It's not. And it's an absolutely perfect example of what we're talking about today with justice sensitivity. It's not that the moments are catastrophic. They don't have to be like world ending, but it is something that just starts kind of digging inside of you. I wonder if that kind of ties to the way that so many of us, you hear people say, well, it's so much easier to do something for someone else than it is to do for myself.
Mm, that's so true. Yeah, that's a good question. Would I have said it if he'd cut in front of me? I probably would have, but yeah, it was easier to talk about her than me. If I hadn't said something to that guy, I would have come home thinking, why didn't I say something? And I'd be thinking about what I had said and I'd be playing it out like all the rest of the night. How awful this person was. How come I didn't say anything? I'm just as bad as him. The spiral.
It's funny because it's such a common ADHD experience. It's even part of the criteria that comes into play with ADHD and neurodiversity is the idea of justice sensitivity. The fact that so many of us feel the need to point out when others are being mistreated. It's the I know, we know situation. Like everybody knows these terrible things are going on. Everybody sidesteps them and we just can't. And we don't understand why other people can. And yet that is a criteria that makes it a disorder, which makes absolutely no sense to me.
I'm better at it, but yeah, I've always been like, there's starving people on the other side of the world. Why aren't we talking about it more? Yeah, there's this war-torn place. There's refugees. There's people being mistreated, and we just go on with our lives.
This is why I have to be so careful now because my nervous system was so annihilated earlier in my life. I had to be so careful about the amount of media that I take in.
Yeah.
Be it world world tragedies, politics, poverty, any of that. I have to be very, very careful. I do not watch the news on television, right? I read the news. I will watch videos, but I control when that media is hitting me rather than just having the TV on and running nonstop like some people do, where you're constantly inundated. I cannot handle that. My stepfather, he's the type of person, he likes noise in the background and his choice is to have the news on. I was there for a couple days. I needed to pop in and I was vibrating from the amount of news and information that I had to take in just in passing.
You couldn't ignore it. Like, you could not tune it out. Most people would say, well, just tune it out.
No, I could not tune it out. I literally went and covered my ears with my hands because I didn't have my noise canceling headphones or anything, just so that I didn't have to take in the information that they were watching. It was just so much in such a short amount of time. We can connect the dots like nobody's business. We notice those inconsistencies and we remember details that other people don't. It's not even a case that they don't remember. It's a case that we take in all of the information.
That sounds kind of nice to have your brain not notice everything. Because we do. We notice when things, when things don't line up, especially if it's, like a moral or an ethical issue. It just registers as off. Like we know it's wrong or something's not right. Like being hypocritical. It just feels wrong. And I think too, question like, how can someone be that way? How do they look themselves in the mirror?
Exactly. Black and white thinking comes into play when it comes to our morals and ethics. But I also think in this situation, we can be in that gray zone so good because it's for everybody else. It's to work outside the box for the betterment of everybody. It is so hard for us to put ourselves first, but we can put the world in front of ourselves and figure it out and help others. It's interesting. When something feels wrong, your system keeps coming back to it. It's trying to make sense of it. And that's not a character flaw, it's wiring. There's a difference between how rumination shows up in different situations. Things are layered, they touch one another. It makes it so hard because you're there to bear witness just like everybody else, but everybody else acts like they don't see it.
That's what it feels like when it's an issue of injustice is no, there's only one right answer. Like you need to do the moral, ethical thing that is the right thing to do. And
I think you are correct in saying that. I'm reading this book on common knowledge called When Everybody Knows That Everybody Knows. In my mind, it would be considered common knowledge to not step in front of someone in line. There's a reason why there's a line. There's a reason why there's a rule. There are certain things that are common knowledge, but all of that is so much different for the person with ADHD because we see it so differently. Yeah. Why would that guy step in front of him? When you said the line's here, he didn't say, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and step around her. He didn't move. Why did he not move? We could give him empathy and thought and say, "Oh, well, maybe he was in a rush. Maybe he was trying to get somewhere." But he didn't turn around and say, "I'm really sorry. I have an emergency and I have to get out of here and I have to buy this." He just stood there and looked at you like you were the dumbass.
Is that not the epitome of the ADHD brain? Ticked off at that guy, and then your brain starts ruminating about him. I wonder why he's such a rude person. Maybe he's had a bad day. Maybe he doesn't care. Maybe his dog just died. Maybe his girlfriend dumped him. And then we're thinking about the whole situation all night long.
The neurotypical person is like, what a dick. And that's it. That's where the story ends for them.
We're just talking about a guy at the grocery store. But when it's so much more of an injustice, when it's a really big thing, and we are worried about people's safety, it's just 100 times more weighing on you.
Yes.
It makes it that much more harder to let go because so much more feels like it's at stake.
I'm 1,000 miles away from Jeannine. Mm-hmm. And in this moment, you can probably hear in my voice that I am getting worked up over something that happened to her. I wasn't even there. And I'm still like, why did that woman say that everything's okay? And getting pissed because I feel like you experienced an injustice when you were trying to make something right. But I'm upset for you.
I've ruminated about it for so long and burnt myself out that I'm like, it's okay. Just chill. It's fine.
That right there was such a full circle moment for both of us because I didn't even think about the fact that you were doing exactly what the lady did. By the end of this episode, I'll probably be saying the same thing and you'll be upset about it again.
Probably. Unfortunately, there's a lot of other things to be upset about these days. How do we work with this? How do we work with our brains in these situations?
Pacing, I think that's the best you can do. It's not easy to just let things go. It's hard. It's so hard. It puts us in a position where we have to pick and choose our battles. We're the type that thinks that everything is equally important. Laying things down, passing things up, it can make me feel as if I'm no longer the person I used to be, or I'm no longer the advocate for some things that I used to be because I will let things pass. And this is going to be a bit blunt. This isn't about pretending things don't matter or telling yourself to just get over it. It's about not turning every injustice you witness into proof that something is wrong with you for still caring.
But if unfairness hits you hard and it stays with you longer than it seems to stay for other people, that's not something you made up. You're not wrong for noticing it, even if nobody else reacts.
Yeah.
But I think it's mentally healthier for us to put some distance. As you said, like, don't watch the news 24/7 because it'll just get you upset. I have done that. I've cut back on my media content. It really does take its toll.
Injustices that we all see. The problem is we see them so intensely. It is all in technicolor. This sensitivity isn't something that you need to get rid of. It's part of what makes many ADHD women deeply empathetic and principled and value driven. And those are some of the most amazing attributes that we carry as a community.
The world needs that. We do need people who are going to take up the cause and, fight for what is right in this world. We can't solve every single problem. The whole world doesn't have to rest on your shoulders. It's not yours to have to carry this alone.
Especially when your brain doesn't automatically just let things go. Experiencing injustice sensitivity means learning how to recognize when something has grabbed hold of you and giving your system ways to disengage without dismissing what actually matters.
For me, it's not that I want to stop caring. I just don't want to be wrecked by it. Because once I'm wrecked, I'm not actually helping anyone. I'm just stuck in it. Me being miserable doesn't do anybody any good. It doesn't solve anything. It just makes me miserable. And it makes me mad at other people that they're not miserable about what's going on.
You make an interesting point that I didn't think about, which is justice sensitivity does really make it easy to just be mad at the world, to get so angry on the inside from all the injustices that you see. We all become numb to a certain amount of things. I'm not saying that we're seeing everything, that any of us are perfect by any means. We're not trying to be self-righteous. The idea is not to spiral. Once you understand what's happening, you can stop turning it inward as self-criticism. Stop the spiral and be able to orientate yourself into a space that is safe and allows you to view without absorbing everyone else's pain.
It's not about, just stop doing that. Lord knows more now than ever. We need people who have the passion to stick with something and try to make real changes in this world.
We do need those people who do see the world through a different lens and are willing to stand up and be proud of their feelings and their thoughts and their perspectives. We need those people out in the world that are willing to tell everyone else that the emperor isn't wearing any clothes. What we think is common sense and common understanding might not be. It takes us talking about it and choosing to be verbal and invested in our own lives. If this episode resonated for you, send it to a friend who says they are totally fine, but is still mentally cross-examining the situation like it's a federal case.
And remember, you're not the only one who's angry on the inside.